In the village of Fallowmere, nestled beneath the hills, the harvest moon was never a time of joy. For generations, the villagers had marked the 31st of October as more than the final day of autumn. It was the night of the binding, the time when the demon Paimon rose from his hidden throne, seeking those who had called him through the rituals of the Ancient Ones. The elders spoke of him in hushed tones, their eyes flickering as they whispered about the great king of hell, who could offer knowledge, power, and the secrets of the cosmos, but at a terrible price. The land itself seemed to tremble with the knowledge that Halloween was coming, as if the village knew what awaited them. The crows gathered in darkened branches, and strange winds carried whispers on the evening breeze. It was the same every year, but it was also inevitable. This particular year, however, something was different. A stranger had come to Fallowmere. He arrived in the waning light of the day, traveling with no carriage, no horses, and no baggage, save for a dark cloak that swirled unnaturally around him. He appeared in the town square at dusk, his face hidden beneath the shadow of his hood. Only his eyes were visible, pale and cold, like two orbs of frozen flame. The villagers stared in silence, unsure of how to react. The stranger's mere presence seemed to disturb the earth beneath them, a tremor that made them glance nervously at one another. Old Martha, the village healer, watched the man from the corner of her shop. She knew better than to approach him. She'd seen Paimon once before, when she was a young woman, long before the scourgers had twisted her face and back into its present form. She had paid the price of her own mistake. Still, the villagers approached, offering their usual polite greetings. The stranger, with his voice like the rustle of dry leaves, spoke calmly, but with authority. "I seek a place to rest. This village, it feels ripe for revelation." He was well-spoken, too well-spoken. He was not a man of the earth, not a common traveler. They could sense it. Paimon, who had the voice of 1,000 voices, always took form in such a way, serene, charismatic, but with a dark pull, like gravity. The pull was already working. As the evening descended upon Fallowmere, the air grew colder, the shadows deeper. The villagers gathered in the church, uneasy and anxious, their minds swirling with thoughts of the coming binding. In a small cottage on the edge of town, Thomas, a young farm boy, sat alone by the fire, reading an old tattered book passed down by his late father. It had been his father's most prized possession, a book containing the forbidden rituals of the old world, the Lesser Key of Solomon, a grimoire that called forth the infernal spirits. Thomas had always been curious about the stories his father had told him about the demons, especially about Paimon, the king of hell who could grant wishes, but only at a terrible cost. But curiosity had its price. His hand shook as he turned the pages, searching for something, anything, about the binding, which was due to take place that very night. The ritual had always been done in secret, but Thomas had heard rumors. It was the elders who knew the words, the prayers, the ancient blood sacrifices. Tonight, it was his turn to perform the ritual, for his father's death had left him with an inheritance, a destiny too dark to refuse. As midnight approached, the stranger stood at the edge of the village, watching as the villagers gathered around the church's altar. They would soon begin the ritual that had been carried out in Fallowmere for centuries. Since the first binding, the ritual was simple: 3 prayers, 3 offerings, and then the sealing of the bargain. The demon Paimon would rise from the depths of the earth and choose his victim, the one who had called him. Thomas arrived at the church, heart pounding with fear, the book clenched tightly in his hands. He had prepared everything in secret, but he wasn't sure he was ready. The words of the Lesser Key of Solomon danced on his tongue, but they felt foreign, like they came from someone else's mouth. The stranger watched him closely, his eyes gleaming with hidden knowledge. The villagers fell silent as the ritual began. The wind howled outside, and the ground seemed to shake beneath their feet. Martha, the village healer, stepped forward with the offering, the blood of a lamb, freshly slaughtered. She had performed the ritual before, but the ritual's true purpose had always been hidden from her. She didn't understand the full price. Thomas, his hands trembling, opened the book to the page he had marked, reading aloud the ancient words. "I call upon the great Paimon, king of the infernal, master of secrets and power. Rise from the abyss and hear my words." Grant me the knowledge I seek, the power I desire. Come forth from your kingdom and claim what is owed to you." The stranger smiled, but his smile was not one of kindness, it was a smile of triumph. The ground trembled beneath their feet, the air thickened with heat, the smell of sulfur burning through the church like a firestorm. The flames in the lanterns flickered and danced, casting shadows that seemed to twist and contort unnaturally. Suddenly, Paimon appeared before them, not as a physical being, but as an overwhelming presence, a shifting mass of fire, smoke, and darkness. His voice came like thunder in their minds, echoing through the church as it filled their very bones. "I am Paimon, I hear your call. I come to claim what is mine." The villagers recoiled, fear crawling beneath their skin. But Thomas stood frozen, his eyes wide, unable to look away from the terrifying vision before him. Paimon spoke again, his voice so intoxicating that Thomas could feel the power growing in his chest. "What is it you desire, mortal? Power, knowledge, eternal life?" The words were a poison to Thomas, so tempting, so sweet. But then he remembered his father's warning, "There is no free gift in hell." Thomas spoke, his voice shaking, "I seek nothing but to be free of this curse, this burden. I ask only for peace." A horrible laugh echoed through the room as Paimon's form shifted, swirling like smoke, and then ripped through the fabric of reality. "No peace can be given, mortal, only what is taken. What has been offered shall be claimed." Suddenly, the stranger stepped forward, his hood falling back. It was then that Thomas realized with a gut-wrenching jolt, the stranger had been Paimon all along. The demon had been watching, waiting for the perfect moment to take his true prize. The villagers screamed as Paimon's form expanded, the air crackling with energy. Thomas, unable to move, watched as the flames in the church turned blue, then green, then black, enveloping the building in smoke. The demon turned its gaze toward him, a smile forming across its spectral face. "You sought power, you sought knowledge, but now, you will pay the price for what you have awakened." As dawn broke over Fallowmere, the village was no more. Only the church remained standing, its walls charred and burned, its stained glass shattered into 1,000 shards. No one was left to tell the tale. All that remained were the bones of those who had gathered, their souls claimed by Paimon in exchange for the false promises of power. But on Halloween night, every year, the village of Fallowmere would reappear, just as it had before, like an echo of a forgotten time. And the demon Paimon would walk among the living once more, his dark form hidden beneath the guise of a traveler, seeking those who would call upon him. And so, the harvest continued. Every Halloween, the price of knowledge and power was paid by the souls who foolishly believed they could control the demon. Some say, on Halloween night, if you walk through a foggy field and hear the wind whispering your name, you may be next, for Paimon's harvest is never truly complete. Thank you for listening. Join our always growing legion. Discover Satan World.